First of all, let me introduce myself. My name's Tom Kirkham. I am the founder and head honcho of IronTech Security. Those of you that have been on some of my other webinars, you know my habits of using the word head honcho covers a lot of different people. This deeper dive is about, a brief history of hacking. And I've spent 2 days working on this, and I should say it's a very brief history, very, very brief, because we normally try to do these for 30 minutes, and it was hard. And I'm still not sure exactly how long this is going to take. And I left a lot of things out. So we may stop this and then revisit it again. We might do a deeper dive, because some of these are just some of these hacks are just fascinating in and of themselves. And so we'll just see how it goes. If you've got any questions, put it in the chat box, and we'll address them throughout. This is all a casual thing. You know, we're a pretty laid back bunch. So 1903, Marconi, you know, the inventor of what they called at the time was wireless telegraph, but it was actually wireless radio. And he's the inventor of that. And during a demo of like England, I think it was England's Royal Society, you know, whatever. It was a very, not only a social, but a scientific venue and a big auditorium and everything like that. And they were touting the fact that it was really, really secure, you know, this wireless radio technology or wireless telegraph technology. Well, this guy by the name of Neville Maskelyne, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, he actually found out that all it was a transmitter, and all he had to do was to set another transmitter up in the audience. And so that's what, or in the arena or whatever it was, in the auditorium, and he actually just trolled him. So one of the things he did was he wanted to pick on Marconi. He was mocking him, and so one of the things he transmitted was there was a young fellow of Italy who diddled the public quite prettily. And then he also did other rude things and things like that, and it all got transmitted over. It made them all a laughing stock, embarrassed Marconi tremendously. But the simple fact of the matter was there was absolutely no security. It was just merely transmitting. And he thought because it was on such a narrow band, that in itself was enough to protect the messages. So 1903, very first hack that I can find. So another one that I was really surprised to learn, and we're going to go through these in decades, basically, the ones that I think are very, very worthwhile, that have a theme to this as we go through them. The Enigma machine, a lot of people don't realize, but these Polish cryptologists actually cracked the Enigma in 1932, once they were invaded by Germany. I suppose it was 32. And then their work was used by Alan Turing and others at Bletchley in England to create the bomb machine. And if you're familiar with the movie The Imitation Game, that was what it was about. Now, there's some inaccuracies in the movie that it kind of led you to believe there was only one big bomb, you know, the one big computer that did this cracking, but they actually built over 200 of them. And none of them were built at Bletchley. So anyway, there's a lot of curious things about that. But Alan Turing also is a Turing, I forgot the name of it, but if he theorized before this that machines could think. And so the Turing test is what's used on computers with artificial intelligence to see if they're capable of thinking. Okay. And then finally in 1955, the word hack was first used at the Tech Model Railroad Club, and it meant fussing with the machine or fussing with the computer. Okay. So, and it didn't mean anything bad at the time. And even today, there's black hat and white hat hackers. So penetration testing companies, and that's something we don't do. We can, but we don't do it because it's a conflict of interest. But whenever we start doing some vulnerability assessments, we kind of do a little bit of penetration testing. Well, that's being a white hat hacker. And we're going to talk about a movie here in a minute that talks a little bit more about that. That's a really good example and a really great movie. So getting into the 60s, this is the freaking boxes was kind of, there was a guy by the name of Captain Crunch that was real well known for whistling into a phone. And it basically, he was reproducing the switching codes, the touch tone phone switching codes. Probably some of you may remember touch tone phones, but those tones were also used inside the AT&T network or Ma Bell network to switch and route calls and to signify whether quarters or dimes or nickels were dropped into a payphone. For those of you who remember payphones, and they can be used for a lot of different things, free phone calls all over the world. And then in the 60s, it was very expensive to call internationally. We don't even think twice about it. But these freaking boxes they had different color names for them. Now, they weren't actually colored this, but they had red ones and black ones and white ones, and they all had different purposes. One might be, and I can't remember exactly the colors, but one might be just for the payphone thing. And there's a scene in that movie right there where he actually does that. Another thing to remember is Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs. They built and sold freaking boxes before they founded Apple Computer. So, and yes, they were illegal. 1967 was the first known incident of a network penetration hack. And it was a high school computer club in suburban Chicago area. And they were given access by IBM to their APL network. So, and then once they got in there, they learned the language and the operating system really quick. And then before they knew it, they were into all sorts of systems that they weren't authorized to be in. Kevin Mitnick. This is a name that keeps coming up over and over and over again. I actually had a chance to see him speak about 3 or 4 years ago. He was on the run for about 20 years and served 5 years in prison for hacking into not only this hack, which was the first one, his first major one, and this was into Digital Equipment Corporation or DEC. If you remember that, they were like a mini computer company, almost a supercomputer, but a mini computer company. He hacked into them, but he hacked into a whole bunch of stuff. He was on the run for 20 years and he finally got arrested. He served 5 years in prison, and 8 months of that was in solitary confinement. Now get this, law enforcement officials convinced a judge that he had the ability to start a nuclear war by whistling into a payphone, which brings up the 1983 movie War Games.
America's front line of defense is this computer. It is totally secure. Or is it?
You're really into computers, huh?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Dialing into the school's computer.
Are those your grades?
Yep. I don't think that I deserved it. Do you?
You can't do that.
Already done.
You can go to jail for that.
Only if you're over 18. This computer company is coming out with these amazing new games in a couple of months. You might want to play those games. Wow.
What?
We got something.
Games refers to models, simulations, and games that have tactical
That must be them.
strategic application.
Greetings. Game time is near. Shall we play a game?
Love to. Let's play. Global thermonuclear war.
Fine.
All right.
We have a launch detection. We have a Soviet launch.
What the hell?
Missile warning, no malfunction.
Oh my God.
I repeat, confidence is high.
Mr. President, this is Barry for NORAD.
Is this a game or is it real?
What's the difference?
War Games. Begin playing June 3rd at a theater near you.
So that is the movie that was used as an example of why Kevin Mitnick needed to be kept in solitary confinement. And there was a lot of things to that movie. And one of them was President Reagan and his wife Nancy watched this movie the day after it was released, and he immediately had a general look into whether or not the U.S. systems could be hacked. And they found out that not only was it possible, but it was also plausible. So this focus created the first U.S. federal internet policy, the Counterfeit Access Device and Computer Fraud and Abuse Act of 1984. It's still in use today. And so this was something at the time in 1983 that people thought and felt was really, really possible. And in fact, it was based on a real life incident where we almost triggered World War III because of a computer simulation. Now, other things that War Games introduced that is all real. This was probably one of the most, even to this day, is one of the most accurate technical movies. Now, if you've seen Swordfish and some of the other, almost any other hacking movie, they're pretty liberal. They take a lot of artistic license with it. But the things that you saw in this movie was entirely possible, or at least plausible. There really isn't a whopper supercomputer that controls all of this, as far as we know. But he was doing a thing called war dialing or demon dialing, and that's where you just dial numbers over and over. This was back in the days before everybody had full-time internet. They were doing dial-up. And so he just dials up phone numbers, consecutive numbers, looking for another computer on the other end. If a human being answered, it just hung up and dialed the next number in the list. And that's how he accidentally found this computer that was in the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. It was the first movie to use the word firewall in computer context. Now, the word firewall has been around since the 1800s, but it was the first time to use it in computer context, right? Now, get this. There's one of the characters in the movie is Dr. Falcon, and he was loosely based on Stephen Hawking. And in fact, both Stephen Hawking and John Lennon was considered for the role of Falcon. Stephen Hawking thought about it and turned it down, and then John Lennon was shot. And so they ended up getting that English actor. I forgot the name of him right off the top. But that is, if you haven't seen that movie, it's kind of a feel-good movie, but it can really scare you quite a bit. So let's move ahead. 1992 was the first use of polymorphic code. So what's polymorphic code? Polymorphic code has the ability to, in every instance that it reproduces, it changes its signature. So some of you have heard me talk about antivirus, and antivirus is signature based. Well, once polymorphic code was introduced, antivirus became less and less useful. That was the first downfall of antivirus. Of course, now antivirus is practically useless. It's just horrible. Don't rely on antivirus. But 92 it's that old when it was first introduced. Now, this is the second movie that I've got in here. The writers of War Games went on to write the screenplay for Sneakers. Okay, Sneakers is another one of those that is fairly technically accurate, and besides that, it's just a great movie. It was just well written movie. And I'm going to play a little bit of this. I'm not going to play the whole clip because it's kind of long.
This LTX-71 concealable mic is part of the same system that NASA used when they faked the Apollo moon landings. Worked for them. Shouldn't give us too many problems.
They break and enter.
How we doing?
Cars in position on the fire escape. Mother's in the cable vault.
Carrying to sever master circuit.
But they're not thieves.
We're getting too old for this.
They know your secrets. But they're not spies.
It's gotta be there somewhere. What's he doing?
I'm making a really.
Mr. Bishop, do you mind if I take a look?
Carl, grow up.
I give you something to work, baby.
So people hire you to break into their places to make sure no one can break into their places?
It's a living.
Not a very good one.
Now they've got a new client.
National Security Agency.
I don't work for the government.
Relax, Marty. It's just everybody on your team has had some sort of problem in their past.
Now what are you saying? The NSA killed Kennedy?
No, they shot him, but they didn't kill him. He's still alive.
They may not want the job.
Liz, I need your help.
I will not be dragged back into your world.
But they don't have a choice.
We don't want to bust you. We want to hire you. We're the good guys, Marty.
Can't tell you what a relief that is, Dick.
Your job is to find that little black box.
We got it.
Holy cow. What the hell is this?
There's a war out there, old friend. A world war.
Oh my God.
How is this possible?
It's not about who's got the most bullets. It's about who controls the information.
Anybody want to shut down the Federal Reserve?
Hey, don't screw around with that thing. It's all about the information.
So it's a code breaker?
No, it's the code breaker.
Okay, so what that movie is about, first of all, the group of them, Robert Redford and Sidney Poitier, Dan Aykroyd, and so on, they are a penetration testing organization. That's what they get paid to do, is break in, find out where the vulnerabilities are, issue a report, and walk away. That's what penetration testers do. So there's a bunch of cool things in that movie. It's very enjoyable. How could it not be if it's got Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, and Dan Aykroyd's there for the comic relief, and Ben Kingsley. Yeah. So at any rate, and this was back in 1992. Okay. So in 96, what they were trying to steal in the movie Sneakers was a device that could unencrypt any encryption. Well, in 1996, cryptovirology is born, which forms the basis of ransomware today. Okay? Because ransomware is all about encrypting and holding the data for ransom, and pay the ransom, they'll unencrypt your data. So in 1996, the foundation was laid for the scourge of ransomware that we're familiar with today. Now, Kevin Mitnick. In 1998, Yahoo was hacked by hacktivists that planted a logic bomb if Kevin Mitnick is not released. So remember, Kevin Mitnick's in prison. I don't know who the hacktivists were, but if you remember, we want to understand who our threat actors are. And what they did is they planted a logic bomb and a worm that if you just visited the Yahoo site for about a month, they claimed that the logic bomb would go off if he wasn't released from prison. This is 1998. And this was one I wasn't aware of, is in 99, a hacker on a radio interview show, which was Coast to Coast AM, hosted by Art Bell. In fact, the person was Healy Rose, whoever that may be. But he actually exposed a plot by Al-Qaeda to derail Amtrak trains. So this is 1999, it's a couple of years before. So it wasn't just the World Trade Center. They had other plans as well. But at any rate, they shut the trains down over Y2K, I guess was the trigger for it, as a safety measure. So that Y2K date, the trains were shut down. They weren't running. All right. Now, 2001, the National Cybersecurity Alliance was established, and they are responsible for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, Data Privacy Day, and they have another part of their organization where Cyber Secure My Business. So they give you a lot of tools and awareness things. That's what they're about, is tools to help you protect yourself and increasing awareness of all of this. You can get to their website. It's staysafeonline.com, And there's a bunch of things about your protecting your family and things like that. 2003, Anonymous is formed. We'll get to that. In 2006, a hacker did the world's largest website defacement. He did 21,500 websites in one shot. Like 21,000 websites were hacked all at one time. 2007, there was a spearfish at the office of the Secretary of Defense, and they stole sensitive U.S. defense information, and which led to significant changes in identity and message source verification. Now, spear phishing is targeted phishing emails, right? That's part of our training that we provide to you guys. We train you how to identify a fish. A spear fish is a very well-crafted phishing email that looks like it's internal. And so the Secretary of Defense office was caught in one, and they got some stuff leaked out. And then I even remember the Conficker worm, because that was on the national news for several days. And it was millions upon millions of PCs worldwide. Am I still okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
It was millions of PCs worldwide were infiltrated, including many government level top security computer networks. Those of you that remember, that was on CNN and everything for quite a few days. That's where, in fact, so that image there is a button that you could buy. I survived Conficker. Now, this one I did all by itself. There's so many things about Stuxnet. So Stuxnet, for those of you that don't know, this is a worm that was created to attack a specific Siemens 7 industrial control system, and it was designed to be distributed even through air-gapped systems. So what's an air-gapped system? An air-gapped system is a network that in no way is connected to the internet. So they designed it to be distributed via USB drive. We're not entirely sure of all the details on this, but I do have some very high confidence trivial stuff about this. So Israel and the United States apparently got together and spent quite a bit of time and money creating this Stuxnet virus, and it was specifically designed to basically destroy the centrifuges Iran was using to refine plutonium. Okay. And it had it was like a rifle shot. It had very, very tight conditions that had to be met before it would execute. And if it didn't meet, if the target machine didn't meet these specifications, it terminated itself so nobody would find it. Right. So it's a very stealthy worm. And basically what it did is it not only spun the centrifuges up faster than their operational limits, but it also reported back to the monitoring the control panel or the monitoring center that everything was functioning normal. Right? There was nothing wrong. They're all functioning normal. They're staying within their operational limits, when in reality, they were going way past their operational limits and basically self-destructing. So a few things that we do know is, and it's, Snowden mentioned this in 2013, and regardless of what you think about Snowden, but he claimed that Stuxnet was cooperatively developed by the United States and Israel. In 2011 on the PBS program Need to Know, Gary Samore, who at the time was White House coordinator for arms control and weapons of mass destruction, basically, he said, we're glad the Iranians are having trouble with their centrifuge machine, and that we, the U.S. and its allies, are doing everything we can to make sure that we complicate matters for them, offering a wink, wink, nudge, nudge acknowledgement of the U.S. involvement. Also, Sean McGurk, who was a former cybersecurity official at the Department of Homeland Security, noted that the Stuxnet source code could now be downloaded online and modified to be directed at new target system. He says the Stuxnet creators opened a box. They demonstrated the capability. It's not something that can be put back. So this Stuxnet virus that was successful, that did destroy centrifuges, and it's verified by a lot of different people, and there's other people that are on record for the wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing. So it's almost certain that the United States and Israel was involved. There's some other country, European country, that might have been involved. But what happened, and we're going to talk about this in a couple of slides later, but this tool got out into the wild along with the source code, and now it's being modified, or has been modified and can still be modified, to attack all sorts of different types of industrial control systems. And basically every nation on earth has now been a victim of a variant of the Stuxnet virus, or the worm that we created. I spent a lot of money on that too. Millions upon millions. Okay. 2012, LinkedIn was hacked, 6.5 million users stolen. 2012 was one of the first big SCADA systems attack, industrial control systems. 9 countries were hacked, including the United States. 13, Tumblr was hacked with 65 million credentials were stolen. In 2014, everyone probably remembers this, the movie The Interview, which is about these 2 characters here. Were in, they had a TV news magazine, I think, or something like that. And they were basically hired to, they got an interview with, was it Kim Jong-un, and in China, and then they were hired to assassinate him. And the movie's a comedy, and it makes Kim Jong-un look like an idiot. So North Korea, who has a very good hacking team, hacked Sony servers. So they ended up not releasing this movie to the theaters. I think it went direct to video, and then it was available for free, if memory serves correctly. 2015, the Office of Personnel Management, the United States Office of Personnel Management, was hacked. 21.5 million people records were stolen, personally identifiable information. It included social security number, dates of birth, address, fingerprints, security clearance, and other information from the United States Office of Personnel Management. The Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post report that they believe the hacker was the government of China. Cyber warfare is going on all the time. Okay, remember the Stuxnet virus. 2016, the NSA's own hacking tools were released onto the dark web. They were for sale or for download on the dark web, most of them with the source code. So all of these tools at the NSA, or most of these, or some of these, nobody really knows, of course, they were all, the NSA itself was hacked, and their tools are now available to download on the dark web. That's very same Stuxnet virus is being used against us. 16 also saw 57 million records stolen from Uber. I think 600,000 driver's license of Uber drivers were part of that. And then all the riders, I believe, at that time. Then we all remember the Equifax breach. 145 million records were stolen. That was all over CNN and the headlines and everything like that. Here we go back to Anonymous. Anonymous is a hacktivist group. That's one of the types of groups. And so when 3 days after the murder of George Floyd, they hacked the city of Minneapolis's website and the Minneapolis Police Department website. And they did that. They put their their creed up there. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us. And they had a video up there, and let's see, they went on to address police brutality and vowed that they will be exposing your many crimes to the world. So, and then finally, in 2020, we saw the first known death directly attributed to a hack, and it was in a hospital got hit with ransomware in Dusseldorf, Germany, and it led to the death of a patient there. So, there's probably plenty of others back in time, but this is generally acknowledged as the first known death to occur because of a security event. All right. Just a quick reminder. If anybody wants to do this again, I liked it. And I think we can do some cool stuff with this, maybe do a deeper dive like I mentioned up front. And we probably will do that and maybe change it up a little bit, but there was a lot of research that went into that. Just a reminder about the security assessment. Make sure you schedule that. Kenzie just put the link up there in the chat box. I hope everybody enjoyed this, because I certainly did. And yeah, we'll have to do this again. But anyway, easy peasy to do the security assessment. And I think we have a code for this. When does that expire? What's the code and when does it expire?
The code is hack in all caps, and it will expire tonight.
All righty. I'm going to type the word hack.
Okay.
Hack
and
is the code. Otherwise, we're charging $4.95 for that, for the security assessment. But with hack, you can get it for free. Expires at midnight.
Next week, we are going to be talking about the scary truth about antivirus and why it leaves you vulnerable.
It's horrible. And sometimes, one of the myths that we cover, I just threw this slide in here real quick. One of the myths that we cover is that good cybersecurity is expensive. This is just a sample pricing. If you don't have a server, you're just a small company with 3 PCs, you can get security awareness training. You can get that super turbo deluxe antivirus, which is known as MDR or EDR. I hate to even compare it to an antivirus, but because it's just so much more. You get the security awareness training, you get the EDR, and then you get virtual machine backup, which is about as good as it gets with disaster recovery and business continuity planning. So just 3 pieces. It's just a sample price. Once we do the security assessment, we determine what you need and give you a proposal. And so actually you could do it for less than that. If you only have 1 PC that needs a backup, well then, it's going to actually be less than $99. But anyway, just $33 per month per computer is pretty good to get enterprise grade security. And thank you, Elizabeth, for the kind words. And we'll have to do this again.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.